Grab your pots and pans. It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula.
All rise, court is now in session. Man, I have been waiting to say that. The plaintiff is Candace Owens. The defendant is Kamala Harris. The case before the judge is that she says she's Black, and I say she is not. And so it is an honor for me to host Judge Joe Brown, who has been making the rounds because he vaguely remembers a conversation, not vaguely, he very much remembers a conversation that he had with her daddy. And the things that Kamala is saying today don't really match what Kamala's father, Donald Harris, told Judge Joe Brown. Welcome to Candace.
Well, the judge is in the house, dear. So here I am. Anyway, I came right down the road from Memphis, not too far.
So you have been all over the news. Actually, right now, you probably are not on Twitter, but there's a clip of you that's gone absolutely viral.
Well, I am on Twitter, X.
Oh, yeah, you're on X. Okay, good.
Yeah, you can get me at Judge Joe Brown TV.
Okay, so did you know that you were going viral this morning?
Judge Joe Brown go viral all the time. And to me, Judge Joe Brown has always been a credible, right? He's always been a credible source. He's an honorable judge, so why would he lie about anything, right? But let's continue. Leave your thoughts down below. Before we get into this, how y'all feeling today? Put a 1 in the chat if you're feeling okay. Put a 2 in the chat if you're moving and grooving. Put a 3 in the chat if you're glad to be 6 foot above ground, not below. On that note, let's get to it.
No, I didn't, but it wouldn't be the first time. And then they try to knock that down. Kwame Brown and I did a thing 2 or 3 years back, and we got up to 9.8 million views, which is definitely viral. But then we started knowing that the views started dropping. And then if you look at it now, it's like 800,000. I guess they didn't want anybody to look at 9.8 million. You want to see what's going on. Well, that's not anything compared to what Trump and Musk get on X.
Yeah, well, the numbers that you're pulling right now, I would say, are equivalent to Trump and Musk, particularly a clip of you that's on stage. So I'm going to tell you what I saw, and I've actually played clips of you on my show as well. The thing that I love about judges is you tend to have a really good memory and a great record with the truth. And I can say, after speaking with you leading up to this, you don't forget a thing. You do not.
Sometimes you want to forget some things. You say, oh, no, did I do that back when? But then sometimes you don't.
Yeah, and you clearly remember a lot.
I must say that Judge Joe Brown is very entertaining. It's no way that you can't say it. But for him to be his age and his recall is extravagant. He remembers everything from the 40s to the 50s to the 60s to the 80s to the 2000s to the 2010s. Hell, I think he even remembered the future. He's good at what he do. So this is why I pay attention to Judge Joe Brown, because I was wondering, right? She got selected to run. First it was Biden, then it was her. Now you have Obama campaign and smearing the Black man. People gonna vote for whoever they want to vote for at the end of the day. But if you're trying to overly convince somebody, what do y'all think? Then she says she's from Jamaica. Well, she has Jamaican relatives. Then word on the street is Jamaica is that her grandma isn't Black. They was Irish. They owned slaves back in the days. So while she's trying to be relatable to the middle class, you was never the middle class. Madame, you was above class. You're part of the British Royale. Like, let's just be real. But let's continue. What agenda y'all think she's pushing? The communistic or the Marxism agenda?
Lot, and you were running the exact same circles as Kamala Harris. You're out in California. So can you explain to us how you met her father, just how that came about?
What was going on is this is a convoluted story. Magic Johnson's mother, a fine woman, and one of her buddies, who was the oldest sister of a personal friend of mine, would always involve me in these projects with the islands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got me down there, and I was supposed to participate in the youth program in Jamaica. So I was the guest of the Prime Minister and the Governor General.
And who was that at the time?
Well, let's not get into that because there's some complications with that. And my ex and I, we were attendees at this dinner, so we got introduced to everybody's favorite Hindu professor. And he was sitting next to my ex-wife or wife at the time for a while, so we all had this back and forth questioning thing at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite interesting. And I recalled running to him back in the 60s. He and his wife were grad students up in the Bay Area, and I was an undergrad at UCLA. So there was a back and forth between Los Angeles, man, where you go crazy and then go to the asylum up in the Bay Area. So it was interesting what was going on back then.
So how was his demeanor when you guys are at this dinner and you're in Jamaica? What do you think about him?
He's reserved.
Reserved. Okay.
Dignified, laid back.
Mm-hmm. But still involved in, and my understanding is that he's been involved in politics actually for a long time, has had an interest in politics his entire life, I would say.
Yes, quite. I'd call him a Marxist.
A Marxist. And that is exactly what I've heard from a family member of his, that he, from the time he was very young, was always involved in Marxist meetings and
I tell you that she's a communist. She's a communist and she's a Marxist because that's who she's programmed to be. No one don't want to believe me, but I tell people, do your research. Don't believe nothing I say. Do your research. You have information at your fingertips. It's no excuses. It's no excuses. Most people believe what they see, and they don't even question what they see anymore. Just grab your phone. You grab your phone anytime else. Go look it up yourself. I mean, you have Google, you have cross-reference point, you have databases that you can cross-check. It's no way that most people are asleep behind the wheels. Can somebody grab the wheel? Can somebody grab the wheel?
Marxist groups, kind of a dyed-in-the-wool commie. I don't think that's something that he's ashamed of, by the way. I think he wrote about in the Jamaican Global Online how he was sort of raised up on the politics via who he purports to be his grandmother, Christiana Brown. But it's interesting that you said you were introduced to a Hindu professor.
Mm-hmm.
What made you think that he was Hindu?
That's the introduction.
That was the introduction. Okay. And your wife?
What is she?
No, did she get to talk to him about that?
She talked to him, and it was interesting because at that time there was no reason to put him with anybody special until you started putting all of it together. He was a Marxist, and when he was up in the Bay Area, a lot of things were going on up there. That was the Liberty Park up there, where in 1964, a lot of what was going on that led to the rousing unrest of the 60s and the public demonstrations was happening. My in-laws were from up there, and I didn't know them then because I think my ex-wife was born the same year that Kamala was born. So, this was before all of that, but this was the locus of a lot of things going on. The Black Panther Party was up there, developed. So it was pretty radical in Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond, and this is where the action was. UCLA was in Los Angeles, that was a bit more civilized, really wild up there in the Bay Area. So he gravitated to that. That's the way I would analyze it. So there was a Marxist thing up there. Also, this was during the rise of Jim Jones, which is another thing. Jim Jones, the Kool-Aid and the picnic. Kamala's sponsor, Willie Brown, Maxine Waters, and some other people Nancy Pelosi were staunch supporters of Jim Jones. Interesting. Yes, you need to look into that. You'll find some very interesting things like, hey, this was your mentor and he was a supporter of this. So it was a center for a lot of radicalism at the time.
So it's so funny how life happens this year, and I don't even know what the reason was. Actually, I do. A friend of mine sent me a book, and the book was called Chaos. And she said, "You'll love this for your birthday." I read, and I opened the book, and I couldn't put it down. It was the subtitle of the book is something along the line Charles Manson, MK Ultra, and the 19.
Now, before we continue, I want to give you guys a definition, right? Let me stop sharing the screen. Let me give you a definition of what Marxism is. Let me know if y'all can see the screen. Put a 1 in the chat if you can see the screen. Put a 1 in the chat if you can see the screen. It's coming to you. And this is the definition of Marxism. Now, according to Google, okay, y'all can see the screen. That's a bit small. Let's get that larger. According to Google, right? And let me zoom in for y'all. According to Google, Marxism. Let's read together. Marxism. Marxism means it's a political, economic, and a social philosophy that examines the history of humanity and argues for a transition from capitalism to communism. Now, I'm a capitalist. Why am I a capitalist? I like making money. Anybody that makes money is considered a capitalist. Now, a communist, that's the opposite of that. That's that. Well, we're gonna get into that definition as well. Let's look at the origin. The origin of the word Marxism is named after Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, 19th century German philosophers and economics, right? The principles, these are the core principles. Marxism emphasizes the importance of economical, y'all reading with me right here? Marxism, this is where we're at right now. Marxism emphasizes the importance of the economic factors in shaping human actions and behaviors. It also possesses that the struggle between social classes, particularly the bourgeois and the proletariat, will lead to a communist revolution. Let's do some analysis. Marxism uses dialectical and materialistic interpretation of historic development, known as historic materialism, to analyze class relations, social conflict, and social transformation. So that's Marxism in a nutshell, right? That's Marxism in a nutshell. Let's go to what communism is, because Marxism links to communism, and this is her programming. I just want to go back to the roots. You go back to the roots of things, you begin to discover why people act the way they act and how they're programmed. And most people are programmed, generally speaking. So communism. Now, mind to tell you, Marxism and communism trumps or it obliterates capitalism, right? So, what's communism? Let's get to communism. What's communism? Communism states that it's a political, economic, and philosoph a political, economic, and philosophical ideology, philosophical ideology that aims to create a classless society where the means of productions are owned by the public. The goal is to eliminate class struggles and have everyone share the benefits of labor equally. Now, that's basically saying that's dictatorship, in other words. Basically saying give all the power to one group of people and the other group of people. So 1% controls the 99%. That's what communism is. No one truly wants that, but that's where the world is headed. So let's break down. Here are some key characteristics of communism. Common ownership. The public owns and controls the major means of production, such as the factories and the mines. No private property. There is no private property or currency. What? So basically, that goes to the own. What did they say? Own everything, control nothing. So you're gonna own everything, but you're gonna control nothing. What? Anyway, wealth distribution. Wealth is divided equally among citizens or based on the individual need. Whoa. That's going to lead to UBI, which means universal based income. That's not good. Non-market economy. Communism is associated with non-market economies and autarchies. Maybe if I butchered that word, we're gonna get back to that later. I'm mispronouncing or announcing my words right now, but hey, still a good day. German philosopher and economics Karl Marx is considered the father of communism. So the same person that created Marxism, which is Karl Marx, is the same person that hand in hand created communism. We don't want that at all. He and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848, which outlined the basic requirements for communist society. The collapse of communism in the Soviet Union in 1999 was marked by the rapid dismantling of the apparatus of terror by Mikhail Gorbachev. If I butchered your last name, my bad, but his point is, do y'all understand the definition of what's going on? Now let's go back to Candace and Judge Mathis. I mean, I keep saying Judge Mathis, Judge Joe Brown. Let's go back to Candace and Judge Joe Brown. Let's get it. Let me know if y'all can see the screen. Okay, you can see the screen. Let's go.
1960s. Okay. And essentially it's just
Before I continue, hit those links down below. I appreciate people sending me this to react to in my email. Y'all see my email right down below. I don't drink coffee, but if you're feeling generous, hit my Cash App and or hit my PayPal. Also, I have some links down below. Get some EMF protectors. If you love your family and your loved ones, make sure that they're good because cancer is spreading rapidly, and protect yourself. We're on these phones. We're around Wi-Fi. We're on the computer. Everything has some form of frequency, and it can be harmful to you. So you might want to protect yourself. You get a discount for using my link. Also, check on your credit. Make sure that your credit is straight. We have Identity IQ down there below. Also, if you need business funding, hit the links down below as well. Let's continue.
Reporter who was just supposed to write a magazine article on like the 30th anniversary of the Manson murders, and he had no horse in the race. Starts calling around, making some calls. He was very well known, and everyone was scared to talk to him. Long story short, he ends up finding that the CIA was intimately involved, and now this is public knowledge. You can look us up on Wikipedia, that Charles Manson was a Fed, that the CIA was involved, was there the night of the Manson murder.
That's totally correct. I actually, y'all got to look at COINTELPRO as a reference point. I'm dropping some reference points. So they allow Marilyn Manson to basically kill these people. They literally allowed it. And they also infiltrated the Black Panther and everything else back in those days. Same thing that they did with the Muslim community. Everything has been infiltrated. Everything has been infiltrated. There's nothing that hasn't been infiltrated. If it looks good sometimes, it ain't good. I'm just saying. Don't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes you got to open that book up and read it. And you might find that it's kind of a lot of weird thing that's going on in the United States of America. And it's allotted or allowed to happen.
It takes him 30 years. He ended up getting fired from the magazine. He ends up writing this book. He went completely broke because he had to do so many FOIA requests because he was going, what is happening? What really actually happened on this night?
Right.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because elements of this book, as he goes through understanding that the feds were involved with a lot of this radicalism that people thought was organic, whether we're talking about the hippies movement, LSD, things that were happening that to the public seemed to be sort of these natural movements, actually entailed operations from the Fed.
It was orchestrated. Everything was orchestrated. That's why I tell people, I believe that life is like a stage play. It's very Shakespearean, right? Nothing is new under the sun. Nothing is new under this sun. So if you notice that, let me know if you know about Marilyn Manson. And if so, go read the book, go listen to an audio. It's easily accessible right now. And then leave your thoughts down below. Come back and leave your thoughts to let me know what you think. Because I read it And I listened to it, and Candace is dead on. She's dead right.
COINTELPRO, MK Ultra. You're talking about the Black Panthers. Some students broke into the FBI office at that time and
Hmm.
were able to get documents which showed that the feds were tracking a bunch of people. Obviously, we know that with Martin Luther King. And this journalist who was from San Francisco and attended Berkeley
Hmm.
recently wrote a piece saying that he knew that Kamala's mother was involved with the feds and the program MK Ultra. And
What?
when I read this, it seemed so far out. And then, as I was learning from Donald's family that he was a dyed-in-the-wool communist, and I'm learning that he was extremely secretive, and I'm kind of thinking, why was Kamala's mom, who was like a top-rated scientist,
Maybe that's why they didn't seem to be able to stand each other after a while. There seems to have
Mm.
been some great animosity between mom and dad. When they broke up, you might be hitting on the source of the problem.
Mhm.
That was very widespread. Um,
And Judge Joe Mathis is telling the truth. A nuclear family, that's all you need. Man, woman, kids. What is it? God, it's man, then it's woman, then it's kids. In that order. And that's how it should be. Everything else out of that order don't work. I'll show you why it don't work. It just doesn't work. It wasn't meant to work. It is not going to work. It might be a feel good moment, right? But after you get over those feel good moments, reality kicks in. And then what? Let's continue. Smash that like button if you agree. Tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the beginning. This is not the end.
People don't understand what that was like back in the 60s to be active.
Hmm.
We would have meetings or gatherings, and 3 weeks later, the FBI is hauling you in and quoting to you what you said. And you'd say, yeah, freedom of speech, First Amendment. You got that? No, I'm not going to tell you this because you'll get me for making a knowingly false statement. Screw you. I'll take the fifth on that, or get me back. And they'd always manage to get you so they could take your phone book and get the numbers out of it. So you took to no longer carrying your black book with you, because no telling when the FBI is going to pick you up. And by the way, I was the last judge on that James Earl Ray case, and I know what the FBI did. That quick summation to set the background. Ray had absolutely nothing to do with King dying. The FBI ordered that hit. They recruited a
What?
two-man
Hold
sniper
on.
team,
Hold
not
on.
one.
Y'all heard what he just said. And this judge, he have all the documents in the world. One thing I can say about older people, especially people like in their 60s, 70s, and Judge Joe Brown is definitely up in age, right? But he's young in the mind. His mind is fresh. Everything connects. And one thing I could say is that even when Martin Luther King, before he died, he always stated, man, I think I was leading my people into a burning house. What does that mean? He was leading you to death, meaning that his concept really didn't work. That's when Malcolm X came about, and he was a bit more aggressive, right? A bit more firm, a bit more manly to me. Forget just the words. I mean, everyone, the words sound good. Martin Luther King was great with words. We're not going to discredit him, right? Great with words, very convincing. But as far as action, did the words create the action that was needed in order to spark a revolution and or change anything, right? Absolutely not. But leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Do you believe that his words were strong enough to change things, or was it just words? It's like a rap song or music or melody. It's good, it sound good, it's feel good, right? But at the end of the day, after that's gone, then what? The reality kicks in. Malcolm X, on the other hand, to me, he was more brute, more forceful. But what I don't like about Malcolm X thing is that the own Muslim Brotherhood killed him as well, which was then so-called, allegedly, hypothetically, it was already penetrated by the CIA and the FBI. So when you think about it, it's like, who sent the hit? Follow the money. Who sent the hit? Follow the money. Judge Joe Brown, he see it with his own eyes. He's a judge. He see classified documents all the time. That's why I believe he's so credible. That's why I believe he's so credible. But let's continue.
From Quantico Marine Sniper School, which was right across the tarmac from the FBI school. They supplied the weapon, which is an XM21, which is a modified M14. I do have in various places around the country the serial numbers for the 5 of them they got on an invoice late December 1967, and 5,000 rounds of the ammunition that are identical in aspects to what they pulled out of King's body.
What?
The next thing is the Justice Department ordered them to return the 5 rifles. April 68, that's the month King was assassinated, and they claim they lost one. That's the murder weapon. And I have the serial numbers for the 4 they did return. So they only made 63 of them at the time. So the FBI is suspect. This COINTELPRO developed later, but they had the SIS unit. And if anybody wants to read about that, get the Glass House tapes written by Louis Tackwood.
The Glass House.
Tackwood scared the hell out of me and a lot of other people. We knew him as supposedly somebody who had been a medic in the NOM, and he came back and he was treating people who got injured in the 60s. It was chaotic in those days. And I remember I was in law school and I went to watch this murder trial downtown LA, and they brought it in. I said, that's Tackwood. Not only was he not a snitch, they introduced him as Lieutenant Louis Tackwood, Vice Commander of the SIS unit for LAPD. I was going, oh man, this dude knows everything, but he didn't tell on everybody. But this was real. And I know 15, 16 people that I was acquainted with that got shot to death who were active in these movement situations.
This has been a strange election. The Dems have made it apparent that they are zealous for the blood of babies. Kamala Harris is the first vice presidential candidate to ever visit an abortion facility.
That's another thing. I'm going to let this commercial play because I actually support this commercial with Candace, right? But they keep banging this abortion thing. They want to change the laws saying that a woman can wait until 9 months. My God, the baby is damn near born by then. Wait until 9 months to abort the baby. It's like, what in the world? Why would you do that? Now, I'm not saying some situations now, it's her body, her choice, right? Her body, her choice. But the way the law is going, did y'all know that over in 2023, I keep giving y'all the facts. Don't believe me, look it up yourself. 2023, 1 million baby was aborted. So all this shooting that's going on, all of these gang and gun violence and all that has nothing compared to abortion. When I mean that is the highest murder rate ever known to men, known to women, known to society, known to everything. 1 point something million. I was like, what? And then look how many kids and kids go missing every month or every year, right? In the United States, 400,000 kids go missing a year. Where the hell where all these kids going? So you got that plus abortion. That then leads to population control. I don't think y'all follow me. That then leads to population control. So how does that benefit society? It doesn't. Because when your parents get older, who the hell gonna take care of them? Think about it. China was facing that same problem. They told everyone, look, you can only have 1 kid per household. I said, why would they do that? 30, 40 years later, right? Their future isn't bright at all. You're supposed to have kids in order to make sure society is very fruitful. That's why they say go out and what? They didn't say go out and divide. They said go out and multiply. Read the Bible, look it up yourself. Now, I don't read it for religious reasonings, but I read it as it's a great novel. But look it up yourself. You see what I'm saying? It's a reason. So we need the kids. We need the moms. We need everybody around. We need the whole family. Now, you know what they're doing now in the United States. They're trying to put this agenda saying that, hey, ladies, you can do all right by yourself. Tuh. In which world? It sounds good, but you're still dependent on a man. His name is Uncle Sam to get your little check every month. You're still dependent on a man. The road that you walk on was built by a man. In order to protect, if somebody try to snatch you up and hit you upside your head, ladies, what you gonna do? There ain't much you could do. Brute force runs the world. There's not much you can do. So you're gonna need another man in order to put his life on the line, in order to be on the front line. I don't know what's going on with these independent mindsets. It don't ever work. Look, we got July 4th independence, and where have that gotten you? Are you really independent? Or does it look and feel like you're independent, but in actuality, you're still enslaved? So just think about it. Don't go for the okie doke because everyone's falling for it. Oh, let me split my family up and let me go this way, let me go that way. It's not gonna work. It never works. It sound good, it look good, but I was told never judge a book by its cover. It sound good, it look good as hell. It's very enticing. But does it actually work? And how is it detrimental to society or is it beneficial? Leave your thoughts down below. I want to know what you think. Is it detrimental to society and or is it beneficial? Put a 1 in the chat if it's detrimental. Put a 2 in the chat if it's beneficial. Let's get it. Because they cooking.
As First Things reported, Tim Waltz supports the right to infanticide. Did you hear me? Infanticide is the taking of a baby's life after birth. It is, like I said, insane. The media has dubbed this the abortion election. We must take a stand against this evil. When you join forces with Preborn, the largest pro-life organization in the nation, you are protecting the greatest victims in our society, babies in their mother's womb. Preborn's network of clinics are positioned in the highest abortion areas in the nation, and they have rescued over 300,000 babies. When a woman considering abortion searches to end her baby's life, Preborn is there. Preborn gives these women in need a free ultrasound. The power of hearing the baby's heartbeat on an ultrasound combined with God's love doubles a baby's chance at life.
Mm-hmm.
One ultrasound costs just $28, and up to 5 ultrasounds are $140, and they can save lives.
Mm-hmm.
Any gift will help their cause, and all gifts are tax deductible. To donate securely, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can go to preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. Why did the so obviously, by the way, you've said something very big in terms of a lot of people who are young and are not well read up on history, real history. What they learn in the classroom is essentially a fairy tale. I've known that the FBI killed.
I tell people I've learned more out of school than I learned in school. I'm just saying. I learned way more out of school in this real life, the thing that they call life, than I did in school. There's nothing wrong with those programmings, but what you're going to figure out is that if you have a high IQ, they want you to think what they want you to think. In one of my schools, which I did appreciate, they always told me to be an independent thinker. So I said, aha, I'm more like that. I think, I move how I move, and that's just how it is and what it is and what it's going to be. So at the end of the day, that gives you a mindset to say, question this, question that, ask who, what, when, how, why. Because if you don't, you're going to fall for the okie doke. You will fall for the okie doke. Always question why. But why they want me to do this? How does it benefit me? How does it benefit them? Have those conversations with yourself. It's worth it. But let's continue. This is a great
killed MLK. Most people don't understand the FBI killed MLK, but why? They were tapping him, they were threatening him, they were, everything was crazy, and we could talk about JFK too. But what was their reason for being so obsessed with the black?
Have you noticed whoever that they end up slaughtering, right? They always got a street name after them. They killed MLK. MLK is all over the world. MLK is in every major city. Fact check me. Every major city, they have a road called MLK, as if they try to remind you. I've noticed that what they do is they try to induce fear, meaning that you chop off the head, the body wiggles, right? Meaning that if you dismantle the people that's known for, let's just say, wanting to change, it's going to send ripple effects to others. They say you kill one, you scare 1,000. What happens if you kill 1,000? You're probably going to scare the entire world. So to me, they're using that same tactic, but it's time for us to wake up and smell the coffee. It's time for us to wake up and smell the coffee.
Black Panthers with they murdered many of the Panthers as well. They murdered Martin Luther King Jr. And it's also very scary that they can do these things and then print out textbooks that say, oh no, this random guy did it, so what was their reason? What was their What was their obsession with wanting to infiltrate these movements?
They were concerned about what was going on in the Nam.
Mm.
There's a big hookup with everybody that we've been talking about, also Obama's people, Barry Soetoro's people, and the Nam. The idea, for instance, the memoranda we got a hold of with the King assassination thing, they were not worried about him starting civil rights back up. That was dead. Civil rights was dead and gone by the mid-1960s.
Mm.
It had been replaced by militancy, and the FBI memoranda, actually they were discussing whether he'd be more dangerous as a dead martyr or is alive somebody to galvanize the anti-war movement and revitalize labor. Those were the two things they were concerned about. I recruited John Huggins, Bunchy Carter, Geronimo Pratt, Elaine Brown, Nat Clark, and a few other people who were in the Panthers to UCLA back in the 60s. And it was the same thing with them. What were they going to do about getting people wrapped up in this militancy of saying we're not going to be down on our knees while somebody beats us across the head anymore,
Right.
and somebody else feels guilty? We're going to do something about it. And I've seen the stories that came out of the assassination of John and Bunchy at UCLA. Hell, I was there. They ran right past me when not John, but his assassins are running right past me. They'd shot John in the back twice, and he died of that, but not before he set up and fired 6 shots at him, the guy that shot him, and 3 others running down the hallway. Elaine Brown and I were getting ready to go up some stairs when this went on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. The LAPD detectives that were investigating the homicides, they wound up calling some of us and say, could you meet us at, of all places, Denny's? Well, why not at the police precinct? Because it's not safe. Somebody on our side is not working on our side. They're working with something else.
Listen.
And we have cause to be fearful of our lives, meaning the detectives. So we would have these meetings in some weird places, and we'd discuss stuff, and they'd say, we're trying to make a bust, but only people that know are in our department. And when we get there, somebody's already told, and
Yeah, so
they've gone.
that was a huge piece of that chaos book, was that it made me understand that the feds have people at the LAPD office that do the cleanups, that are watching everybody to see what they're investigating, and also at the medical examiner's office, the coroner's office, like making sure that the reports say what they want them to say, so that they can present their case. I mean, he showed from top to bottom, like judges, lawyers, the LAPD. I would never live in LA after reading this book, because you realize it's just an entire operation. They can make you disappear, they'll kill you, and you'll be none the better. And that almost directly ties in with what we're learning about the Diddy case, which is like, okay,
Yeah.
he knew who to call at the LAPD to come over and to make something disappear if things got out of hand, or if somebody was shot or somebody got hurt. And so this has been going on. And I think this discussion is really important since the 60s. I've been really working hard for people to wake up about who your government is. But I'm fascinated that you say that you think it was about the war, because that really was my takeaway from that book, Chaos, was they needed the hippie generation to end, and having this big fake staged Hollywood murder that the CIA was actually involved in, Charles Manson was a Fed, was a way to traumatize with propaganda, was to traumatize the public, the hippie communes, everyone's love, rock and roll, let's not go to war.
That's why they never arrested Charles Manson. He was the police. It's like you arresting one of your cousins in him. That's why they never arrested him. Y'all got to read the book. I'm telling y'all, great read, great read. If you can't read and you don't have the time to read, they have something called an audio book. Go listen to the audio book. While you at work, while you're not doing anything, go listen to the audio book. Feed yourself the truth, because that's what's going to set you free. Last time I checked.
And he basically said overnight, because of these horrific murders, people started locking their doors. They were afraid of hippies, and the music died that day. Nobody wanted anything with like peace, love, rock and roll, and LSD,
Right.
because they were just all told and following this case. So we're talking about a psychological operation that was enacted on the public to create a mass psychosis. And you're virtually saying the exact same thing. What was their worry? Well, people didn't want to go to war, and they had war on the mind, and they wanted to get to war, and they couldn't have anybody who was militantly against it or peacefully against it like the hippies were.
There's another cook up too. We were talking about that rainbow thing. Uh,
You heard what he
it's
just said.
interesting how they got
It was another cook up. So someone just requested me to do it. So let's do it. Cook up, cooking up that cook up, cooking up that cook up, cooking up that cook up, cook up, cooking up that cook up, cooking up that cook up, cooking up that cook up. They cooking right here. They cooking right here. Grab your pots and pans. It's time to cook. Don't forget the spatula.
got started. In the late mid-60s, they're going around all over the country talking about this, and it was a coalition of those who hated that they weren't men. Those were the feminists. The ones that hated men, some of the lesbians. The ones that hated that they weren't normal men, that were some of the gays. The ones that hated that they weren't strong men, the soy boys, so to speak. And then the big chunk was this other, hey man, war is a man thing, man. You know, it's all about love, man. We got to have love power, man. Flower power. Men are about war. You have to change the way men are raised from boys so they're more into expressing themselves.
His impersonation, that was funny to me. Hey man, and you know, man, and then you this way and then that way, man, and it's all about love and care, man. Smash that like button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Oh. All right, go ahead, Judge. Go ahead, Judge. Go ahead, Judge. Quote adjourn. Quote adjourn.
So you got this thing there that had the overwhelming ballast, and that is the impetus for what led us to where we are now. And this was an important thing. It was an anti-man thing that developed because of this perception that men are responsible for war. Forget about the fact that we've got a large component of the military now, and some striving to be in combat arms that are female. But it was perceived to be a man thing, so no war toys, no cap guns, no water pistols. Boys and girls had unisex child clothing, child rearing. Boys are supposed to be able to emote, to cry, to shout, to let it all hang out instead of being so uptight and under self-control. And the worst thing you want is the apex predator on the planet Earth to be out of control, which is exactly what they were setting up. And this thing came together, and it juxtaposed itself in a situation where Hollywood's movie studios were going bankrupt in the face of color television. A color TV up until the mid 60s, the screen looked just like this table. It was round and no bigger than that. And then they got square when the technology improved. So people were staying at home watching their color TVs. 1967, if you were an adult, you'd pay 50 cents to get in a movie, and you got two movies, and they changed every Thursday and Sunday, no matter how well they did. You got 3 cartoons and a couple of sub features. Walk in anytime you wanted, stay as long as you wanted. So then somebody came up with the bright idea.
Where was I at? I guess I wasn't born back then. So they was doing the movies like that, but maybe they was. I look at everything as a form of programming. Maybe they was programming you to think a certain way, right? Maybe that's what it is because movies depict what happens in reality, which is to me is a program. Just like when you watch TV, it's called a what? Television. So it's telling your vision how to think, how to move, how to perceive, how to anticipate, how to analyze. how to judge, what to be afraid of, what not to be afraid of, all these things, right? And sounds and frequencies are very important. You unlock that, you unlock those things in the world, you unlock life itself, right? Sounds can heal you. What you see, what you hear, what you think can also be a detriment to your life, and or it can be a bonus too as well. So be careful about thoughts that you have, because it all starts with thoughts. Everything stems from a micro, then it leads to a macro. So it all starts with thought, right? So be careful watching these TVs and watching this and watching that, and next thing you know, it's in your psyche. Now you're dreaming about it. Now you acting upon it. The same thing with music. I remember when I was younger, my parents, they got me I used to like the 50 Cent. I used to like 50 Cent, but they always used to say sometimes, that's the devil's music. And first I didn't understand it because I was like, what you mean that's the devil's music, right? They cranking right now. That sounds good. But as an adult, I understand. It's like, whoa, I'm glad that they got me the version that didn't have any curse words, because that's actually protecting kids be kids. What I don't understand about the United States is that everyone is in a rush for a child to grow up to be an adult. That's why I don't like these little LGBTQ LMNOPs laws that they put in on people saying your child could have a sex change without the parents' permission. So who the hell raising these kids? The school? Huh? How? Why would you allow that as a parent? It's not in your kid's best interest. Now you go in and you go to California, for example. Did y'all know in some ladies' bathroom, right? Or some ladies' bathroom, they have stand-up urinals. Who the hell is going to be in a stand-up urinals? The one that identify as Rakishi, not Rakishi, the one who identify as him, her, XYZ, XYZ. Does that make sense? Imagine you have a daughter, right? Just follow me, walk with me for a second. Imagine if you have a daughter and you send your daughter to the restroom, and next thing you know is a tranny in the restroom. He decides he don't want to sit down today. Oh, let's not say he, right? Because they might identify as a woman. She decide, or Shem decide, or they decide, or whatever they identify as decides to stand up that day. Imagine that. Imagine how confusing is that to your daughter? That's just as much as in the guy's restroom now. In some states they have tampons in the guy restroom. What in the heck? I said, no. My kid's not going to none of them schools. There's no point. There's no point. You can't program them to think what you want them to think. Leave the kids alone. They're innocent. You only have X amount of years, right? You got the rest of your life to be an adult. Enjoy being a kid. Why they want them to grow up and rush up so fast? That's what I don't get. But then I also do get it, right? Because if you control the what? Youth, you control the future. So it all stems when you're young. It all stems when you're young. I'm glad I was programmed to like women. Jamaican household, we don't really play all that type of stuff. But I feel sorry for any other household, because some households and most households, especially in America, it's accepted. Oh, it's okay for my daughter to do this. What do you mean it's okay? No, it's not okay. You got to be a parent. Let them know it's not okay. You don't accept that. You come in this house with that BS, you got to leave. You got to go. Because what sense does it make? We're made on this earth to procreate. If you're going to stop procreation, what's the point? You might as well hang up the future. You might as well hang up the future. So I don't really support those messages. I don't support that community, right? Now, if you're an adult, you do your own thing, right? But know that there's consequences and repercussions to whatever you do. Know that there's consequences and repercussions to whatever you do. If you decide to do that and it's a man on man or woman on woman, don't be surprised if you can't procreate. Don't be surprised if it just stops right there. Oh, yeah, equal. Everything's fine. Okay, cool. But leave the kids out of it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm protesting for. Leave the kids out of it. Adults gonna do what they do. The kids are innocent mind. They need to be protected. But let's continue because they cooking real quick. Judge, you cooking.
Let's just have one movie at a time. Keep it playing as long as people will come. Let's go get the black markets. The minority markets, they want to see themselves. That's a massive amount of money out there. Let's start using the opportunity to spread dysfunction through glorification of it. We don't want Sidney Poitier playing a part where he's trying to be this and that. Let's get Fred the Hammer Williams to play a drug dealer like Black Caesar, so you glorify being a pimp, a hoe, and we'll come back to that in a bit. A gangster, drug dealer, a murderer, a thief, and you got Foxy Brown with Pam Grier and
That's right. That's what I said. It's like the only thing that they label black people that we could do is entertain, drugs, hoes, prostitution, pimping, all these things, right? Negative aspects. What about the innovators? Because a lot of black people built a lot of things that we use today, the light bulb, damn near everything you're looking at. So what happened to innovation? You know, what happened to engineering? What happened to this? What happened to that? It's like we're told these things. Now, it's hard to break a lot of people, right? They pineal glands closed. So it's hard to break the coding. I get it. But excuses are for the weak and incompetent. You have the ability to do it. You know, it's not just one thing that you should be able to do and be good at. And then if they trying to put you in a box like, damn, the only thing we can do is entertain, what about other things? That part. Can we start there? Well, let's start there.
There was this whole thing where they'd have the obligatory naked, nude scenes in the whole thing. And the plot would be somebody got killed by somebody's drug dealers. And then so they wanted the revenge, and then they wanted to become drug dealers. And then you got Superfly and all of that nonsense. And you got glorification of dysfunction. And the theory that I heard was that young black men are supposed to be the epitome of masculinity. So let's effeminize them. And then you can effeminize the whole public, because the young white guys will try to copy the young black guys. And if you effeminize the young black guys, you get everybody in this mess. And then that led to what they did with the rap genre, which has been stagnant for 45 years. I mean, it's gotten more profane, but it hasn't changed.
But also, it's exceedingly homosexual. I mean, everyone's gay.
Yes, it is.
Facts.
And the other thing is, it's not very masculine, because some of the malinformed feminists say it's this sexual fantasy. That's not what you're looking at when you're looking at the half-naked bimbos bouncing on stage behind the rap artist and the gangster hip hop rap video. That's not his girlfriend. That's his mama, grandmama, and their friend girls and their favorite aunts. So they ideate on feminist stuff like who's going to take care of me, and I got women I live off. Oh, I'm not a producer, I'm not a protector, and you got this whole downhill spiral, which is leading us to where we are right now, where there's no duty, honor, accountability, responsibility, bravery, courage. There's no guilt, no shame to keep you self-corrected and self-focused. You're not interested in making where you live a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics, and you're not dedicating yourself to being a man or a woman of public peace, dignity, and order. You just let it all go to hell. And you try to destroy all human character building things, because anything counts. Because if you have character, and let's say you're a man, that means if you happen to be on the Titanic and it goes down, you say, ma'am, you and your child may have my seat on a lifeboat. I'll drown in the freezing waters. What happens is you say, I've got on a dress too, so get out of the way. That's my seat. You know, no.
I think this judge, right? He need to be in a movie. No, that's true, because men are supposed to be honorable. We're supposed to be on the front line, and we're supposed to sacrifice ourselves, right? But nowadays, you got guys running. If somebody come in your house, you got most of these guys running. They don't want to do nothing about them. They don't want to be confrontational. They don't want to do anything. So I feel them on that. The world has definitely become a bit feminist. Feminism has swept everything up. Masculinity is definitely it's on the decline. It's only a couple of us left. It's only a couple of us left. But let's continue. Let me know how that's affecting the community near you. Let me know how feminism is affecting the community near you.
Oh, take him and throw him over there and chum the sharks with him, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see that they've kind of just continued, or they moved it on. I mean, it's a Fed operation, and then they realized the power of media, the power of Hollywood, the power of propaganda through the TV screen. And it's interesting to see that despite overwhelming evidence that that's what's happening in terms of the music, and I know I'm on the right track. As soon as you say like gangster rap is a Fed operation, as soon as you start talking about the Fed's involvement in Hollywood, the media goes crazy. The media has always been an extension of the Feds. They literally paid them. Operation Mockingbird, after they
Yeah,
shot
they did.
JFK, they had them on payroll to, control the masses and what they think. And yet you have people who are still so controlled. And I can't think of a better example of that than looking at the fawning over Barack Obama and the fawning over Kamala Harris. And they're
Now, this conversation may go over a lot of people's head, right? I'm telling you, rerun this and play it because you will understand the nuances and the dynamics and maybe the problems or the thought patterns or anything else that you might be going through in your life. Why? Right? You might understand why. And once you understand why, then you can come to yourself and be like, hey, let me do some self reflection because none of us are perfect. No one's perfect. Let's reflect and let's aim to do better. We have to come up with some form of solution. We can't just talk about it. You got to put some action behind it. You got to put some action behind it. You see somebody doing something wrong, let them know. Shame them. There's nothing wrong with shaming people. One thing I know about shaming people, it works because you hold them accountable for their actions and they know, well, you would think that some people know what's right and what's wrong. I'm telling you, don't assume that they know. Assume that they do not know. Don't assume people know what you know. Because once you do, right, you have failed. You're going to set yourself up for a rude awakening. So assume that they don't know and then move forward and proceed. That's all I'm saying. Let's continue. This one was a great take. I got to do a part 2 to this one.
belief that magically if a journalist writes that they're black and she creates this trove of fake photos of aunts and uncles and a photoshopped photo of her and her grandma Beryl, that's not her grandma.
She came back from the grave.
Yeah, exactly. Then suddenly
Reincarnation.
people just believe it. They just go, oh, well, if the media.
I don't believe I've been telling people this since day one. I said, look, right? Look at that picture. Her grandma died 4 years before she was born. So how the hell are you in that picture? Kamala, your grandmother died 4 years before you was born. How the hell are you an adult in that picture? You know what I said? Oh. Somebody's doing, they cropping things, ain't they? Somebody's doing one hell of a job. And it's right in front of your face. And if Candace ain't saying nothing about it, right? If Judge Joe Mathis didn't say anything about it, the world would have been fooled and fickled, bamboozled. I said, it's no way. Someone called Jose. It's no way. It's no way. They're doing it right in front of you. So as at a point, they just think everybody dumb. That's basically what you're saying to me. You're saying, look, we're going to do what we want, when we want to do it, and how we want to do it, right? And we don't care who find out. I'm glad we have something called the internet nowadays. I'm telling you. Because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to communicate to people around the world to figure these things out. That's why communication is so important. The lack of it generally ruins everything. Learn how to communicate the good, but also learn how to communicate the bad. Because that's what makes a healthy disagreement become a healthy discussion. You can't have one without the other. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have boom without bang. But let's continue. Let's proceed.
Is telling me that this obviously Hindu woman is black, then I better just accept that she's going to be the first black president. And
Not black.
it's just incredible that people can't stop and process that
Right,
the
yeah, they
media
don't
is not telling you the truth.
That's 50 years of glorification of dysfunction. Don't think, just accept.
Yep.
And it's a propaganda thing that they've been laying out there for a long
Brainwash
time. And
thing.
back in the 60s, if you were at the right college campus, you could hear them planning it. Like join both political.
These are the same people that lied to you in 2020 when, you know, everyone was on the scare. They made sure that you did this and they hold your job against you. And then 5 years later, they're telling you that none of that stuff works. What was the point of it? These are the same people. So I don't know why people still believe in the mainstream media. It's over with. It is over with. YouTube is popping. No one goes there for the truth. If they watch the news, they just watch. They just want to continue being lied to. Don't know what and go there for the truth. Look at the ratings. Numbers don't lie. Why YouTubers making all the money? Why YouTubers are connecting more than the news? Why are people just shutting off the news to go on YouTube now? Because it's over with. You lied to the people once, the people figured you out. You mastermind, you lie. You know how many people died because of they was misled? A lot of people. A lot of people. People not no longer falling for the okie doke. It's over. But let's continue. We're gonna do this for another 15, 20 minutes. Then y'all know me, I'm just getting off work for real. So I'm gonna shut down and probably get on back later on tonight. After I work out and do my little thing, study and do what I gotta do. But let's continue.
Parties to create chaos so that's a smoke screen you can operate behind. Okay, propagandize the public. Take the black experience. You want to be fair to the black folk in the country. So you extend that fairness to other things and you can use it as a cover.
Right.
We can get into that later if you want to, but it's a farce and it's a bill of goods that's being sold on the public. Now, when you get into this whole thing and you get back to the FBI, you have to understand that the FBI is not a holy organization.
Hell no.
It's a gang.
How it came into existence, they wanted to get Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first black world heavyweight champion. Nobody could beat him. And back then, they'd have bouts 25, 30, 40 rounds worth till nobody was standing and nobody could beat him. And Jack Johnson had a white wife. So people objected to him traveling around with his white wife and her entourage, and they just thought this was just horrible. So they created the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to go get something that became the Mann Act, which you can see them using on Diddy, and they used it on R. Kelly. I'm not defending either one of them or persecuting them either or prosecuting, but that's what they were using. So what happens is Jack Johnson and his wife were going across
State line.
Georgia to go to a seaport to go to France, and they had gotten 15 minutes in when the FBI, who were not armed in those days, were accompanied by U.S. Marshals. They rushed the train and they arrested him. They prosecuted him, convicted him. He escaped. He went to France. His mother wanted to see him, and he tried to sneak back in. He got caught, served his time, actually more for the escape than for the offense, wound up dying in a car wreck in 1946. Obama wouldn't pardon him, but Trump did posthumously. And for a lot of older black folk, Jack Johnson was Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis in prototype. But that's how Hoover got started. He was assigned to the brothels in New York, and he was masquerading as one of those little special taste functions on the third floor. He was a cute little colored boy at the time. By the way, Smithsonian Institution and the History Channel, they have gotten into him being black and passing. And J. Edgar Hoover, you look, I'll
I've
show you some
never
pictures.
heard this.
Oh, I'll show you some pictures. And if you look at it, you're looking at somebody that looks more black than Kamala does. So anyway, that's how the FBI came into existence, and they had made a career or a history with this guy in charge for 50 some years of being very political and keeping things under control. That was his game. World War I, he started doing this anti-German thing. Then it became anti-communist. And after World War I, when they had prohibition, they got assigned the task of keeping track of legitimately produced alcohol, which was why FBI agents were supposed to be either certified public accountants or attorneys specializing in tax. Yeah, really right in there, macho, gunslinging law enforcement. No, that's why they had special agents like Melvin Purvis and Elliot Ness, and they were stone cold killers, and they'd each been responsible for taking 15, 20, 30 lives, and they were made special agents. Interestingly enough, all of them seemed to have committed suicide within a 6-month period in 1949. I guess they found out what Hoover was, but that's another thing. So
Hoover was very into some weird sexual stuff.
Yeah.
Which is another thing, but also a part of this thing, because more and more we're realizing that sexual perverts are put into positions of power. And
they have a
alarming.
certain viciousness about what they do, certain lack of connection with tomorrow. So, boom, they are ruthless. Not all of them, but a lot of them are very ruthless. They don't have much concern for other people, and they lack altruism, the willingness to sacrifice for others. So
he was definitely a homosexual and a cross-dresser.
Yes.
So we're against, and I'm only saying this because this is becoming a bit of a theme. I've been looking into the Emmanuel Macron situation, wife situation as well. Barack Obama had a
Bathhouse Berry.
Yeah, he had a trans nanny growing up, and his mother was okay with. I didn't even know that this was like mainstream news years ago. I just learned it. And so we're starting to see, like, it isn't possible in my mathematical opinion, that the odds are that all of these people that go on to become presidents or these tremendous positions of power have these weird sexual perversion backgrounds, sort of upbringings. We're starting to see a little bit of a theme here, which kind of makes, I think, a person that has the capability to think on their own wonder, is this a global operation to just kind of seed people into positions of power, and the world is just a stage?
It's a family thing.
It's a family thing.
Have you ever heard of Samuel Hinckley?
Is he related to John Hinckley? No.
Hinckley. Look him up.
Is he related to the Hinckley that
Cape Cod?
shot?
No.
What's his name again?
Remotely. But he had 7 of his descendants who were.
Run that back, Judge.
That the odds are that
What's his
all of
name?
these
'Cause
people
we
that
gotta
go
look
on
that
to
up. Look
become
that up.
presidents or these tremendous positions of power have these weird
Long
sexual
research.
perversion backgrounds, sort of upbringings. We're starting to see a little bit of a theme here, which kind of makes, I think, a person that has the capability to think on their own wonder, is this a global operation to just kind of seed people into positions of power, and the world is just a stage?
It's a family thing.
It's a family thing.
Have you ever heard of Samuel Hinckley?
Is he related to John Hinckley? No.
Hinckley. Look him up.
Is he related to the Hinckley that
Cape Cod?
shot?
No. Remotely. But he had 7 of his descendants who were U.S. presidents. One who.
Samuel Hinckley. Look that up. Samuel Hinckley. Smash that like button. Tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the beginning. This is not the end. We're covering a reaction video to Judge Joe Brown and Candace Owens. She's destroying the fabric of what they called America. What they call America, land of the free and the home of the who. But let's just continue.
Who was a U.S. vice president, one who was governor of Alaska, one who several billionaires. And what you find is if you look up Samuel Hinckley, they will note some of his more interesting modern relatives or descendants. So here's the way it breaks down. Lolo Soetoro,
This is Barack Obama, just so everyone's watching. That's Barack Obama's stepfather, who he was raised with for the first 8 years of his life.
Okay, well, the rest.
Well, let me tell y'all about Obama's stepfather. Y'all know Standard Oil? Standard Oil is also known as Exxon, as today language go. That's who owned that. Also, he was a CIA agent. Can we talk about it? But let's discuss. So, what people don't understand, I tell people look up the Hatch Act, and I actually got this from Judge Joe Brown. Look up the Hatch Act, HATCH, an act, right? Did y'all know that Obama also owns Blue Cross Blue Shield? He also owns Obamacare, don't he? I don't really think Obama cares, but that's a whole nother conversation. We're gonna make that another video. Does Obama care? Watch the headline. Obama care not. So November 5th, after the election, it don't matter who's president. After the election, your health insurance rate is going to skyrocket. 5x. Did y'all also know he owns Blue Cross Blue Shield, which means that it's a trust, right? Located somewhere in Switzerland. Which means that them hijacking the prices, them taking money directly from you. I tell people when people get older, that's when they're gonna take advantage. They take advantage of you in different sequences through life, when you're kids, when you're an adult, all the way through. So go look it up. Go look it up. Go look up the Hatch app, and then you will see. And then dive deep and go look up, well, who owned these entities? Obama. So the other day when he came out for Kamala, then he tried to insult us black men and tell us, hey, sir, you there, mister, you there, sir. Make sure that you do this and do that. So who the hell this man talking to? I got a father. He didn't even tell me that. So why the hell would I listen to you? Think about it. Can we talk about it? You telling a grown man what to do, you know we're not going to do it. Really think about it. Sit down there and think. Black people are resilient, rebellious. So you think you're going to sit up there and tell us that? Just make us prove that, especially black men, they're going to make us be like, hold on. Why is he trying so hard? Normally it's seamless. They do it. We've been voting Democrats for well over 50 years. I tell people, where have that gotten you? How far have that gotten you? Absolutely nowhere. Right? So now that people are waking up, we got the internet. We tired of the lies, right? We just tired of it. People are no longer going to do that. No longer. Now we're going to just do the opposite just because you told us to do one thing. They don't understand how people's brain work or do that. So listen to Judge Joe Brown on this one, because he seems to be very intellectual, very much so intelligent and resourceful. And you can't say that he's not honorable, because he's a judge. He's a judge. He know the dockets. He know the case numbers. He's the judge. So if he's lying, then what? That's all I'm saying. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. This is very informative. Once again, this is an informative reaction video. We got a couple more minutes. At 1:30, I am out. At 1:30, I'm out. I need to get me some shutout. But let's continue. I'm doing it for the people. I do this for his life
afterwards. Barry Soetoro has an interesting situation. His mother, on his maternal side, his grandfather was first cousin to President George Herbert Walker Bush. So George Herbert Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, vice president, they're all cousins.
All of them related there. All them related. That's why you can't be a president of the United States. They try to give you all the hopes and dreams. When you grow up, I want to be the president of the United States. I look and be like, how? You're not even part of the 13th bloodline. You are not going to be nothing. Not that, at least. You can be anything else but that. You know, you can do anything else but that. They're not putting you in. That's called power. I know this one thing they will do. They give you the money. They let you make as much money as you want because money is imaginable. It's an imaginary number. Go to math class. Look, money is imaginary. Just add a couple zeros to it. We chasing something that really don't exist. Have y'all ever thought about that? People actually going to war, getting upset, mad about something that really don't exist when you really think about it. It's being printed every day. You can't make more money than the machine. You can't make more money than the machine. America is trillions of dollars in debt. So if you don't have trillions, then everyone's in debt. Think about it from a macroeconomics perspective. I'm not saying that I don't love money now or don't like it. Oh yeah, you gotta have it. Not saying that. Very, very much so, still a capitalist. That's not gonna change. But at the same time, if you know, you know. It's one of those things. That's why don't let it bother you. It comes, it goes. You get more, you keep getting more, you get more, you get more, you get more. It's never going to be enough. That's what people don't understand. Why? Because it's being printed. You know what people truly value? People value the things that they really can't have. You know? That's it. It's so much money in this world being circulated, everyone can have it. At least have some. I ain't saying that your amount may be egregious compared to others, but you can touch something. You know, you can touch something. That's all I'm saying. But don't let that be the reason why you depart from this, you depart from that. Don't let it be the money because at the end of the day, you fell for the okie doke. An imaginary number, ones and zeros, binary. Don't let it corrupt you. That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying don't get no money now. You got to have it once again. But know what it is. Money is a tool used to build whatever you want to build in this world. So the question would then be, what do you want to build? Because you get the money, then what? You can't look at it. What, you gonna bury it? Then what? So the ultimate question is, I tell people, my advice is build something that can add value to others. That's the ultimate thing. Because at the end of the day, you can't take none of this with you. Everything is gonna get left behind. So if you're not leaving something of value behind, then what was the point of you being here? You know? Well, literally, what was the point of you being here? You could have went somewhere else in the universe. Leave something behind. My plan is, I can't tell y'all my plan, but we got to leave something behind, something that's going to help out the entire world. That's the ultimate plan. That's the goal. To help others. Duh. You get the money, what you do? First, you help other people. That's it. It's innate behavior. Humans generally want to help other humans. It's innate. Generally. You know? But let's continue. We got a couple more minutes, then we're going to break this down. I'm going to do a part 2 later on today.
Sarah Palin is a cousin. Barack Obama is a cousin. George Herbert Walker, who founds Halliburton, is Uncle Herbie to all of them. And interestingly, when he was running against John McCain's running partner was his cousin, Sarah Palin, who was governor of Alaska. Real unholy alliance, right? So other thing is the Bushes for the last 150 years have been supplying international intelligence, and they were into what they call paper entrepreneurialism. They would acquire businesses and sell the components off.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Herbie founded Halliburton, had something to do with Enron as well, which was energy development. Lolo Soetoro was international executive vice president for Standard Oil, and he was in the oil business, but he also ran the death squads for the Indonesian army.
Oh, it's funny because when you look him up, it just says that, like, you know, what do they say that no, he was an engineer whatever this is, like he did. They make it seem like he did. Oh, he was a geographer. That's what it says. It says that he was a geographer who did some work
Yeah,
for the
well,
government.
I had a brother who was into that, and then the oil petroleum production was part of it. Anyway, you get Lolo Soetoro
What?
running the death squads for the Indonesian government. So that meant you had money. Indonesia might have had access to the world's largest oil reserves as they were perceived at the time. So Standard Oil used his muscle and his position to take over the oil industry in Indonesia, which they couldn't do under American law. So George Herbert Walker Bush, under the auspices of Uncle Herbie, George Herbert Walker, sets up Zapata Oil. They have a family holding company, Zapata Offshore Oil, which was chartered in Kuwait, by the way. Keep that in mind. And what winds up happening is George Herbert Walker, dealt with Lolo Soetoro quite frequently on oil deals. And remember, George Herbert Walker becomes chief of the CIA under the Ford administration, and he deals with their number one contract guy over in Asia, which when the NAM was going on, Lolo ran intelligence for the CIA under contract in China, North Korea, North Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, in Indonesia. So Barack's grandmother hustles her daughter, who was 17 at the time, into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with Barack Obama Sr., who was being recruited from Kenya to offset Jomo Kenyatta in the Mau Mau. That was a CIA project. Grandmommy was vice president of a Hawaiian bank, and she distributed the funds for the CIA in the South and Northwest Pacific at the time.
That explains
So
what they were doing out in Hawaii.
she puts him together with her daughter, who was 17 years old. Barack is born. And then they quickly go their separate ways. And then grandmommy gets daughter and hooks her up with Lolo Soetoro. And remember, grandmommy is married to President Bush's first cousin.
What?
So
That's incredible.
that's where you get this. And then you get.
So Barack Obama's grandmother, the one who raised him in Hawaii, is married to, so his grandfather is married to.
In other words, the grandfather is Bush's
first cousin.
Yeah, and they're all nephews to Uncle Herbie, who founded Halliburton in 1946 in Oklahoma. It had previously been chartered under that name in 1919 in Oklahoma, but it went defunct, so he revived it.
So it's actually quite interesting that you're saying that, because when I began this investigation into Kamala, before I had even presented it to the public, I was just seeing what was already out there. And there was this random person who wrote a blog piece years ago, 10 years ago, saying that, and I thought it was crazy when I read it, but he said that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden share a grandfather. And I went, like, that's so wacky. And so, what are you talking about? But then as we started realizing,
that's on the Irish side.
right, the same last name, Finnegan. They actually are all Finnegans, and they both kind of have, once you get to granddad stage, it gets a little shady, is what I'll say. She's lying about things. Her dad's lying about things. I can't quite figure out, like, we can't find a picture of the real Beryl. We know that Beryl had a sister who was very, very white, and actually the name that she gives us, Patrick Al-Nahanus Finnegan, doesn't seem to exist. So we're lying about a grandparent somewhere. And then when I start looking into Biden's side, I was doing it this weekend, things are pretty shady there too. I'm just kind of at the beginning of this, but it's like his great grandfather, like, same situation, like the parents both died at very young ages. One was an alcoholic. It's always like the parents somehow go missing, and then the grandparents, like he also like was really raised and formed by his grandparents. So it's getting interesting, especially when you consider what the world was, which I think is something that people don't do. Like people always want to apply the logic to today, and they don't realize how things were back in the 60s or back in the 40s, how easy it was to fake documents, how easy it was
Right.
to move into different
Oh,
countries.
yes.
And I had Kamala's family relative tell me that you could literally just walk into the office in Jamaica and say, like, make a birth certificate. Like, it was just very easy
And very,
to get things done in that way.
very. And see, the other thing too is you, with your situation, you are well aware of the Commonwealth, right? Okay. Your in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, that was Hong Kong, Singapore, that was Nigeria, that was Kenya, South Africa, that was Pakistan, that was India,
It's
that
Jamaica.
was Jamaica, man, that was the Bahamas, that was Barbados, that was New Zealand, that was Australia. So I used to get to Jamaica an awful lot. So you hear somebody, hey man, everything gonna be all right, man, I mind speaking patois, and you turn around and there's somebody Chinese talking like they go, oh wow. Well, see, it's the British Commonwealth, before that, the British Empire, so everybody travels freely around there. Now, I have a friend that's married to a Jamaican. She was born in Jamaica.
Mhm.
So were her parents, but she's English aristocracy, and I won't mention the name, but they're related to the English royals. She's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and she was born in Jamaica because her aristocratic parents just happened to be over there, and they were born when their aristocratic English nobility parents were born in the place. So it's an interesting thing when you see that, and it's St. Elizabeth Parish where all of the high, bright, and white Jamaicans are, and it's an interesting little hookup. So we get an international thing, but there is a family situation that gets in here. And Kamala's folk were trying to get in on it through the mother because they were Hindu. Now, the dad said his background is Irish and also from India, the Hindu thing, and he became a Marxist because that was what was going on back when he was coming of age in the early 1960s. Now, when you get this in,
Whew. That is a lot to digest, right? But we're gonna finish up. We're gonna finish up a little later on. Smash that like button, tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the beginning. This is not the end. Another episode of the Healthy Discussion Show. Don't forget to hit them tabs down below to add value into your life. On that note, peace, blessings, and love. And remember, positivity over negativity always.